All right. I am lighting some sage right now on top of a Palo Santo. This is Kasim Khan and Josh Trent. How is everyone
Hey
doing in
guys,
Facebook land, you guys? We're going to talk about education today, and I thought it was perfect because it's on Educate, Inspire, Change. Kasim, how you doing, man?
I'm doing amazing. Josh, how are you?
I'm really happy to be here. We haven't done a live in like a month, so we
Yeah,
missed you guys. Like, we just want to have these real conversations about things that matter. And I want to make sure that everybody listening tells us where they live because Educate, Inspire, Change is like literally this global movement. So, you guys, where are you watching from? Are you watching from Africa? Hi, Laura. Are you watching from the United States? Are you watching from Costa Rica? Let us know where you're watching in the comments. Kasim, we're going to preview this video that you made on Educate, Inspire, Change, and it's about the education system. What
mhm.
inspired you to make this video before we preview the video, man? What was this all about for you? Did it come through in a dream? Was it you and a partner? Like, how did this come through?
Yeah. No, man. Well, I've got like two young kids myself, 3 and 4 years old. So I'm thinking about schools. I'm thinking about putting them into education. And I actually saw a video from Gary Vaynerchuk talking about how he thinks the system is outdated, and I shared it on my page, and it got over 6 million views.
Yep.
So like it really touched a nerve with a lot of people, And then it got me thinking, and it made me think about what I want to do with my kids, and that's what kind of inspired the video.
Yeah, we got people from Dallas, Texas, Panama City, Lakeland, Florida, Romania. Hi, Gia from Romania. Mari
Mhm.
from Tbilisi, the UK. So no matter where we are in the world, everybody's got their own version of education. How would you even define education? I got my views. What do you think education actually is?
Yeah, I mean, I think education. I think we've got it wrong since the beginning. In the video, I explain a bit about where education came from, how it started. So when the Industrial Revolution took place, they wanted to take children and turn them into really good workers. People that could repeat work over and over. So they created these schools to kind of give them discipline and all that kind of idea. So play and creativity was never really a part of education, and almost still isn't today. For me, real education is what you get by living life, by experiencing life, by making mistakes, by adventure and all that kind of. That's a real education, like
Yeah.
learning cultures through life experience.
Man, I'm in the same camp of this really solid movement in the United States. It's called unschooling. So it's actually having kids at
Mm.
home and then the parents become the teachers. The only thing with that is parents are out working. They're busy. They're doing their thing. How do you see this? And if you guys are just tuning in, we're going to watch a really powerful video clip from a short little 6 minute film that Kasim made about changing the education system here on Educate Inspire Change. So if you're tuning in, just stay tuned. We're going to preview that video right now. But Kasim, I think about the way that parents are strapped for time and energy, and then of course children do need education because that's how we grow smarter. That's how we become more intelligent. But my thoughts around this
Mhm.
are if we can get government and policy and community and state level and all these different fragments of humans to come together to really change the education system. Um, what do you think that might even look like in 20 years? In our lifetimes, we're going to see massive disruption anyways. We're already seeing educational systems being disrupted and shaken to the ground. What do you think, man, if you could wave a magic wand, like if you're an orator, what would you do to change the education system?
I would encourage creativity. At the moment, people are being educated with the purpose of making profit, So going into the capitalist world where they can create maximum profit for them so they can buy the maximum number of things and be successful.
Yeah.
So I would change the ultimate goal of education, which should be to inspire creativity, which should be to encourage passion. So you should find what children love doing and push them in that direction.
Mm.
And I think imagine if everyone in the world loved what they did, it would just be a beautiful place. Just now, because of stress, because of anxiety, there's so many illnesses, and society is very sick. You can see that by just looking around you. The hospitals are full of people with mental illness and sickness and cancers and diseases. The prisons are full of people. There's wars all around the world, and I think this all stems from being misinformed as children.
Yeah.
We're not taught about self-love. We're not taught about mental health. We're not taught about the things that really matter.
Yeah.
We're taught about so many other things. That, don't get me wrong, education has its place. I mean, learning about math and science does have its place, but it needs to come in its own place, you know.
Yeah.
We need to
Yeah.
learn about building character. We need to learn about manners. We need to learn about treating people with respect, diversity, culture, so much more that we don't teach in schools that we should be teaching.
Yeah. Let's preview this video right now. We're going to preview this clip about
Cool.
really switching over and changing the educational system. So we're going to preview this clip right now.
For me, I think it's completely outdated, and we really need to change how we approach educating our children. I mean, the system itself is predicated on the memorization of information, and information is everywhere at the click of a button. The real problem with schools for me is that they've always taught and still teach children what to think. They don't really teach them how to think. Schools should be fun environments where children can really express themselves and play and explore. But instead we have this very kind of work-like atmosphere, you know, where there's rules and they're enforced by authority figures, and there's always the threat of punishment looming. So this kind of environment just isn't the ideal environment to create kind of growth, you know. It's a perfect environment, however, to create little workers and people who are obedient and who always follow the rules and who don't think outside the box, you know. So if we go right back to the beginning, for hundreds and thousands of years, kids would self-direct, they would play, they would learn in nature, and they would just grow themselves, you know. They'd be left to their own devices very much. But then over the years, with agriculture and later the growth of industry, what we found was they found the need for schools to create these children into little workers, you know. They wanted to create the kind of environment where children could get used to tedious, repetitive work. So originally schools weren't designed for children to really grow and express themselves. Schools were created so that these children would become obedient workers and become good factory workers and good farmers and this kind of thing, you know. So if you look at the system then and look at it now, it actually hasn't changed that much. For me, I find it uncanny when you look at the prison system and you compare it to the school system. Some people think that comparison is outlandish, but I don't think so. I mean, you've got authority figures everywhere who are always threatening to punish if you break rules. There's also the sound of that bell, you know, when that bell goes, you're told when to start working. When it goes again, you're told when to stop working. Then you eat at the sound of a bell and you stop eating again at the sound of the bell. So this is just creating that kind of obedient kind of mindset, very similar to what they have in the prison system. And also,
so the fascinating thing for me is the clip just stopped where you made the corollary between education and prison systems. I think we've all felt like that. Like I can remember being a young kid in school and something in my inner being, Kasim, like it knew that what I was doing wasn't really best for me. Now, sometimes when I'd be sitting there, I would be interested. Like I love history, you know, I love learning things that are storytelling, but we have kids being railroaded. And you talked about this where schools were really created to make obedient workers, to make fucking obedient workers. Let us know in the comments if you feel this way too. Do you feel like when you went through the education system yourself, Kasim, that you had to relearn and unlearn what you actually were programmed for?
Oh, very much so. I mean, when I left school to go into the workplace, I didn't have any life skills. You know, I didn't really know how to live in the real world. I was very kind of anxious. I couldn't hold an interview well. I didn't have any life skills. I didn't know how to handle relationships. I didn't know how to handle rejection. So, you know, like definitely, like when I left school, I had to learn life for myself, by myself, you know. And I mentioned in the video about how it's a lot to do with parents' responsibility, and that's correct. I do agree that parents need to take a much more active role in their children's education. But the problem is our children were educated by the same systems that we're educated by. So they only know what they're taught by their parents, you know. So it's like we're cycling all these bad habits and all these old traditions, when what we really need to do is create a generation that stops the cycle and thinks outside the box and changes the trend, you know. And I think that we're that generation. I think that things are changing all around the world. Things are being legalized, you know, all around the world, like cannabis, marijuana. Laws are getting relaxed. I think it's just a sign of changing times, you know.
Yeah, I look at all the comments that are coming through, and the comments are really fast. And there was someone that came in from Texas, and he said in Texas there seems to be a disconnect with the community. It's because, Kasim, especially here in the United States, there's policies that are in place. They fund education to be a certain way. Those schools only receive money. Let's be honest, you guys, money's oxygen. Like if you don't have money as a school, you can't breathe. So if you're getting money from the government and that money depends on the school doing certain things that the government has instituted, that's the fundamental piece of this system that's broken. Like that's how we actually change this whole thing.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
I just feel like a lot of people watching here maybe have a story of their own. Tell us your stories in the comments too. LA, Christopher, hello. Norma says, luckily the wherewithal to rebel, asking questions they couldn't answer. Norma, you are legit. Norma is a Educate, Inspire, Change gangster. Norma, tell us what questions you asked that they couldn't answer. Because that actually, if we're asking better questions, we're going to move the needle closer to truth. Like the whole like questions of, how do we change the educational system? I think that's the high level question. The real question, man, is how do we start inspiring people to be that change inside of themselves? That's going to have new parents come, change the system from policy level. I feel like the more we try to go change things up top without changing ourselves first, the more frustrated we become, and it's a vicious cycle. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, 100%. I think certainly the 7 years I've had Educate, Inspire, Change, the first 3 to 4 years were very much focused on sharing content, educating people about what's happening in the outside world, And then what I found was a lot of people had a feeling of powerlessness where they couldn't change the political regime, or they couldn't change the prison system, or they can't change the education system. And they're quite right, they can't. But what they can do is they can change themselves, And if you can start from home, start with yourself, start with your own children, and if everyone starts to do this, then slowly you'll notice a change across the world, Things don't happen overnight. It takes generations for things to take place, I think we're living at a very lucky time. We have the internet, which no previous generation ever had. So we can do lives like this. We can inspire people with the word of mouth, with video content like this. So I'm really optimistic that my kids are going to grow up in a much better time, when people can really talk for themselves and stand up for themselves.
Hey man, I just got like a big jolt of lightning in my chest because God, the whole piece around this is, you guys, this, we are being programmed. We're being programmed. We talked about this on Wellness Force. So many neuroscientists and people that understand how the brain and the body and the gut are all connected. When you feel something in your body, that feeling is a guidepost. And I know, Kasim, you're about to go experience a lot of feelings and get a lot of guideposts because you're going back to Rhythmia here at the end of the week. For people that don't know, or maybe they're just tuning in, what is this role of plant medicine for you in feeling your feelings, reprogramming yourself, and being this educational, inspired change force? Like, what is this plant medicine journey meant for you so far this year? It's been quite the ride, dude. It's been quite the ride for you.
Oh yeah, very much. People who follow Educate, Inspire, Change will know how much it's changed me in the last year, and they'll see the change in content, the change in direction of the page. For me, the plant medicine helped me to find my voice. It helped me to find my purpose. It reminded me why we're here. It brought me closer to nature, and inspired me to create more video content like this, to start my own podcast, to create documentaries, just to really inspire people to be the change that they wish to see in the world. By me healing myself and overcoming traumas that I went through as a child, and overcoming all that is allowing me to be better as an adult, and to be a better father, to be a better educator, to be a better inspirer. So if everyone can just start healing themselves, and I really feel like in the next 10, 20, 30 years, the world's going to see a massive change in the way we think. It's going to be like a spiritual revolution, and I really believe that.
Yeah, I just have a sense too that, like, as we see this collective consciousness uprise, which is really what we're in the middle of, I know y'all can feel it. Let us know in the comments if you felt an awakening within yourself. Like, first of all, I can. I've been feeling it very strongly for the past 2 years. And I think what you're touching on, Kasim, is like there's this piece of all of us that's connected to what Joe Dispenza calls the collective field. So we're all in this collective field. We're all feeling the changes and the up-leveling. And also, too, for all the empaths that are with us, if you're an empath and you feel things deeper than most people, you also feel the darkness in the collective field. And I'd love for us to jam about this, man. There's the dark, there's the light. There's the love, there's the hate. There's always this duality, as I know you and I love Alan Watts, right? So Alan Watts always talks about the duality. As you approach this really epoch for you this year, where you've done enough ceremonies now, you're leading this movement with Educate, Inspire, Change. When you personally feel the dark, and you feel that dark in the collective field, what do you do with inside of yourself to shift over to the light?
Good question. So first of all, I've come to realize that if you can't control your own thoughts, you can't control your own life. Yeah. So when you let other people influence you, when you let the world influence you, you've lost your power. You're giving it away. Yeah. So for me, when I start to see this darkness creep in, even into my own thoughts, even into my own life, when I start to feel anger or resentment or these kind of emotions that won't serve me well, I take time to breathe, which is what the medicine taught me. It reminded me to breathe. When you breathe slowly, everything kind of comes into alignment, and you just think positive thoughts. You change your chain of thought, you know.
Yeah.
And as soon as you do that, as soon as you can bring humor or some kind of light or love into your thoughts, then immediately your energy changes, you know. And I found that this practice really helps me a lot, especially if there's times when I want to react badly to something, and I now stop myself. Before I would maybe react very quickly and things would happen, but when you in moments of anger, always take time to be silent and breathe, you know, and then see how your life changes.
I love this, man, because on my arm in Italian is "Se posso respirare, posso scegliere," and what that means is if I can breathe, I can choose. I didn't know you were going to say that, so like now we're breathing brothers, you know. People are commenting in that they felt a surge in their awakenings. The truths are coming to light. Not giving away our power. So everybody's feeling this too. But God, dude, I love what you said so much when you said, when I'm going through that period of darkness, if I can just remember to do this, 6 deep breaths. Wim Hof talks about this, that he's done research with, I believe it was the Mayo Clinic, and 6 deep breaths can shift your physiology from fight or flight to rest and digest. 6 deep breaths. So it's this training tool for the 3D world, our breathing. And I know there's breath work too. One of our mutual friends, Christian Minson, I actually had more breakthroughs in the breathing than I did on the very last day of the ceremony when I was there. And did you experience the same thing in breathing? For people that don't know, we're talking about breath work to unlock different states of consciousness. So if you're just tuning in, we're talking about Kasim going to Costa Rica right now in about 3 or 4 days, and he's going to be doing breath work and plant medicine. And really, this is the undercurrent of how all of us can help to change the educational system by changing ourselves first. So the way that you're going to do this breath work, did you have breakthroughs before? And are you looking forward to the breath work?
I'm looking forward to it. In the past, I haven't really had breakthroughs. I've got to be honest with you, you know.
Yeah.
I've done the ceremonies, and I've had 4 ceremonies, and then they usually bring your breath work in after the 4 ceremonies. So by this time, I've always been very much exhausted, very much drained, and I've never been able to put in the energy that I want to the breath work. But this time around, I'm going to make a real strong effort to concentrate on the breath work, because I can see how much of a positive impact it has on people. Certainly in my day-to-day life, I still try to practice breathing. So I'm doing it already in my daily practices, but to do it in Costa Rica in that kind of setting under the guidance of Christian Minson and his team, I can see that I'm going to have a big breakthrough this time.
Yep. And plant medicine for most people can be the most powerful thing they'll ever do. For some people, though, I think breath could be a really perfect start, you know? Because and I don't know, have you done float tanks before? Have you been in a float tank?
Once, many years ago, though, Okay,
so there's float tanks, there's meditation, there's plants, there's breath. There's all these different tools that, let's be honest, they're coming to light right now because all of us are aware that if we use our mind, we can move to the light. But we need tools, man. We got to fortify. Like we're here in the 3D with bills and responsibilities and screaming kids. So we all get to have these tools, right? And I'm feeling like, for me, I know that breathing and just being still, honestly, just meditating has been probably the 2 most powerful things. And I notice when I go away from those, if I miss a day or if I miss a period of time, that's when I start to be aware of my monkey mind, like the negative loops. Have you found the same thing? Like when you deviate from your health practices or when you deviate from your personal care and personal development practices, that you then become aware that your mind is looping more? Let us know in the comments. You guys know what we mean.
Yeah, very much. I mean, I think everyone can relate to this, you know, when you're not doing daily practices, that you always fall into this kind of cycle of thinking too much, overthinking, anxiety creeps in. You can almost think yourself ill. I've got a friend who does that, you know. They can almost think themselves ill. So when you keep your thoughts negative and when you're overthinking things, your body reacts in a bad way, things go wrong in your life. For me, I find that just keeping a positive mind and trying, even if you can't do your daily practices, just practice positive thoughts at the very least, you know. So if any bad thoughts come into your mind, at least just say out loud positive words. I even do that. I just say the words out loud, you know, like gratitude, love, children, grace, anything that I'm really grateful for, like my children, always give me a reason to be grateful, So I find that even just doing those little things can make your day a lot better.
I want to go back because we talked about education and transforming education. What is a way, or what is something that you've learned actually in the educational system that you actually do believe was of power to you? Because I don't want to sit here on this channel and just completely wash away the fact that the education system exists. I mean, there is positive parts of it, right? What are the parts of it that we can focus on in the education system now that we can actually grow? Instead of just focusing on what we want to remove, let's focus on what is there and we can grow more that's already inside.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's important that we also point out that we're not attacking teachers or people in the education system. I think teachers are underpaid. I think they do a great job, and I think they have a very kind of honourable trade, So the problem is the system that they find themselves in. I think what I took from school certainly was some of my teachers, the ones that were very good, stood out. So I was inspired by my English teacher, for example, stood out because he was always inspiring. He was always taking time out, and he was always being creative with the way he was teaching us. So there were certainly some subjects, some teachers that really made me happy, that got my juices flowing. There's times when I would look forward to those classes, but on the whole, I would always dread going to school. I would always, not look forward to the school. I went to an all-boys school as well, so there was a lot of testosterone flying around.
Oh man, was it a military school or was it like a boarding school?
It was one of the last all-boys school in Scotland,
Oh, okay.
It was a private school. So I was in that kind of environment as well, which
can I ask you
help.
this? I know everybody's watching and they're like, did he wear a kilt? Like straight up, did you wear a kilt at school?
We didn't have to wear a kilt. No, we had to wear a uniform, but not a kilt. Okay. No. Special occasions, yeah.
Yeah. Because I know there's so many powerful teachers out there, and I love that you mentioned that, man. If we can focus on, let's take all the teachers that are truly inspiring children to think outside of the box and not just follow the carbon copy, like cookie cutter, fill in the bubble test. If we can create programs like that, by the way, are there any teachers with us right now? Or are there any friends of teachers? Like, this is the thing where if we can focus on what we actually see that's a powerful force, then that's what's going to grow. There's a lot of people commenting right now, Kasim, about Joe Dispenza. Julie says, watch Rewired by Joe Dispenza. Yeah, the reason why Joe Dispenza, I believe, is getting so much popularity is because he's touching a truth chord in people's hearts. He's actually getting somewhere when people listen to him, that they're waking up inside more because his downloads are so connected to source. And there is this disconnect, Kasim, between like science and spirituality. Like a lot of schools, they're pretty much 99.999% science. How do we get more spirituality into the schools? That's a massive question. It's a really big question.
Yeah, I think the key again just starts at home. Start with yourself. The more parents that do it, the more teachers that practice it at home, the more people that talk about mindfulness to their friends and their family. Eventually, this will seep into the systems. I think it's already starting. I shared an article last year on my website, about children being taught instead of being given detention, they were given meditation. So there are some schools that are slowly starting, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think in the coming months and years and decades that meditation and yoga and mindfulness will all be brought into schools more. And I think the earlier ages, the better,
Yeah. Let us know in the comments, you guys. What do you think? You're listening to Kasim and I kind of bounce back and forth on the trampoline, but how do you feel? Like, if you could do something, if y'all could wave a magic wand, what are the changes that you'd want to see in the educational system? And let's dream big here, because everything that happens comes from human imagination. All the arrhythmia was created from imagination. You created educate, inspire, change from imagination. And it's the imagination part that I think is most missing from schools. My brother and his wife, they actually are homeschooling. They're my two nieces, and they're so, you got to see them in person, Kasim. They're so loving. They're so connected. They're so present. And you know what they have that I see a lot of kids don't have? They have the beginnings of what I call emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is the freedom to feel your feelings and the knowing that your feelings are temporary. Now, with kids, with young kids, sometimes kids can use, because of their parental example, they can use emotions to control their parents. They can use emotions to get attention. And that's kind of the dark side of emotional intelligence. You have children as well. What's your plan for them? As a father, like, how do you see yourself navigating the educational world with your two boys, right? Two sons? Yeah,
2 sons. Yeah, they're 3 and 4, so they're about to start school, and I'm personally hesitant to put them into the school curriculum myself. I'm interested in the idea of nature schools, being out in nature and play and adventure and self-direction. I'm interested in combining that with a normal school, so maybe 2 or 3 days a week they can be in the school curriculum, they can be around other kids, and then another 2 or 3 days they can be focused on things that they love, things that focus, being out in nature, whatever that might entail, So I think having a nice balance is what's important to me. I don't want them to be stuck for 5 days a week in a classroom while it's sunny outside and they're stuck doing algebra on a desk, We've all been there before when we're stuck inside in a classroom, we can't leave, we're confined in 4 walls, and we want to be outside playing, and instead we're learning some kind of formulas that we're probably never going to use in our day-to-day life,
Totally.
So I think it's important just to find things that are more tailored for kids. So some kids might learn a lot faster than others, and yet they're all being kind of taught at the same level, which I think is wrong. You need to kind of be more adaptable, and I think the fact that we teach like one teacher to a classroom, we have the internet now, you can literally teach thousands and thousands of kids at the same time if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And, I think using the internet would be a much better tool for education as opposed to shoving them in classrooms where only one teacher can look after 30 students,
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can have a bigger impact using the internet. We can have a bigger impact letting kids be. For millions of years, if you think about it, kids self-directed in nature. There was no schools for millions of years,
Yeah.
So it's fundamentally, it's in our genes. It's just to kind of learn and grow in nature and to be creative and to, this is how we evolved. And then to all of a sudden, in the space of 10, 20 years, just shove kids into a box, into a room and say, no, this is what you're going to do. And this is what your rules are. These are your regulations. You can't leave the room. You can't speak up. You can't. This is why they rebel. This is why we have so many kids rebelling in class, getting into trouble, because it doesn't sit easy with us. Even us as adults, we don't like being told what to do, and we're programmed from a young age, but it still doesn't sit with us, So
Yeah.
we're not made to be robots,
I've been feeling this concept a lot on the Wellness Force podcast, and it's to really live life well, to really live this thing well and have an amazing life. It takes the heart of a child and it takes the mind of a warrior. Like whether you go to medicine or whether you believe in scriptures from Jesus, or you look at any religion, most religions have a common thread of have an approach to higher power, to source, with the heart of a child.
Yeah.
And that's what you're about to do when you go to Rhythmia, is like, can you open up to what is with the heart of a child, with that curiosity? Because that's the part that you've been touching on this whole conversation today.
Yeah, this reminds me of a really cool quote that's really resonates deeply with me. Yeah, there's a guy called Sadhguru. Have you heard of him?
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's amazing.
I love this guy.
So his quote was, when a child enters your life, it's not time to teach them your old ways. It's time to relearn life for yourself. So when children come into your life, we need to learn from them. We need to improve ourselves for them. We don't need to teach them our old ways, because our old ways didn't really work very well. You can see that old traditions didn't work, because if they worked, then we wouldn't be having wars. There wouldn't be poverty. There wouldn't be homelessness. There wouldn't be prisons full of people. There wouldn't be all these sick symptoms of society. So we clearly need to change something. And what is that? I think we need to learn from our children. When my child was born, I started to look at myself and ask myself, how can I improve so I'm a better father for him, So like he was teaching me to be a better father just by being born, just by his existence,
Yeah.
So like I think we can learn something from that. I think children can teach us about unconditional love. Children never hate. There's no racists. A born child, we're taught racism, we're taught hatred, we're taught separation. So I think we can learn a lot from children, and we need to really give them more importance, more of a place in society. I think also, people who are teenagers, allowing them the right to vote is a big thing, because at the moment in the UK, the people who vote, you have to be a certain age to vote. I think 16-year-olds have a big role to play in society. They're going to be the future, so they should be able to vote for who they want to lead them.
Yeah.
So I think just giving young people more of a say in the world would help a lot.
Oh man, I love this. And believe it or not, we've already been going for 30 minutes. So I know you got to pack and get ready to go. You guys make sure that you're telling us in the comments what you want to see changed, because unless you're speaking your truth, unless you're typing it out, unless you're putting it out there, the collective field doesn't get it. The only way that collective field, as we talked about early in this conversation, the only way the field shifts from the dark to the light is if we're talking about the light, is if we're focused on the light. That's the whole point of this entire, I think, process here on planet Earth, is for us to choose, to decide. If I can breathe, I can choose. Which, by the way, breathwork, I think it will be, mark my words, probably the #1 trend next year in 2020, because we're not only seeing Wim Hof talk about it, we're seeing the Aubrey Marcus and everyone else at the top of the food chain. And I created a free guide, and I'd love to give it to this entire audience, because it's something that I learned. I spent 30 days in Thailand this year breathing, and I'll link it right here. It's wellnessforce.com/mmorning21. There's a 7-day guided breathwork challenge in there for you guys. It's super free. It's just my gift to you. I want you to try this. Do what Kasim and I do, which is just when I'm stressed out and we're feeling kind of the dark, can we just remind ourselves to breathe? And can we institute that practice into our lives? Kasim, we covered a lot of ground, man. Do you have any parting guidance, or do you think we missed anything about changing the educational system?
I don't think we missed anything. I would just remind people who are watching this, who maybe have kids or they feel disheartened by the system, don't feel disheartened. We're living in the best time that's ever been in recorded history. You know, there's less war than there ever been in the past. Education is better than it's ever been. So although we're picking on things, it's still important to stay positive, because I think that's what's going to make the world a better place. You know, just keep a positive mindset, keep being the change you wish to see in the world, and the rest will follow.
Yeah. All right. You guys have a beautiful day. Choose the light today. Don't just pretend. Like, pause, take 6 deep breaths, and just focus on what it is that you want to be for the change in this world. We'll talk to you guys soon. This is Kasim and Josh saying goodbye.
Thanks, guys.